Greetings, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Super excited to introduce Enhanced AI and our friends here. Give you a little background on our objective today. Not only are we doing a luminary series to talk to Brad, who has a long and deep relationship with AI in a business way. I want to thank our friend Jeff Crane, who's on the phone, for introducing us to the Family Office Insights community. So we have an hour today. We know you're there. We ask that if you have a question to post it in the Q&A or the chat box. We have a lot of folks coming on today, so we'll make sure we get to as many as possible. So post them when they come to mind. Also, we're going to be doing a separate session next week, and we'll be making everybody aware of the date and time of that as well. As you participate today and you learn what Enhanced AI is doing, if there's anybody in your community, friends, colleagues, otherwise, that you think would find it interesting, you're more than welcome to share the recording that we're going to be posting, and also invite them to the session next week. So the objective is to discuss what Enhanced AI is doing and the state of AI presently. It will be an interesting conversation, I'm sure. There's lots going on. The other thing to be sure to know is that we're going to make sure that everybody can get in touch. The objective of our sessions with Brad and company is to learn about what he's doing, and they're raising money. And so just to be know that this is a capital raising objective, and we're going to talk about that too at some point. So thank you all for being here with us. Super excited to learn more from Brad and his firm. And again, a big shout out to Jeff and Paul. Paul's on here somewhere too. Yeah, there you are, Paul. I see you. For introducing us and being involved here. Someone's saying they want me to sit back, and I know I don't have a good looking face. Am I too much in the picture here? So I could show you the snow that's coming down in Park City right now. Yeah, by the way, we're broadcasting live from Park City and I believe Salt Lake, where everybody else is. So with that, Brad, you want to take it away?
Sure. Yeah, happy to jump in. And now, Arthur, when we met, it might have been almost 6 months ago, 5 months ago. If you would have asked me, I guess when we did talk about the state of AI, it was it was even quite different back then.
Different story altogether, right? Yeah.
And I think that probably jumps into the crux of it, of where AI is it's moving so quickly. And it's in this exponential growth curve, technology, what you can do with it. And so that actually is kind of one of the issues with it too, is people feel they're feeling a little bit frozen of what is going on? Is there too much? Is it too little? Are they doing too little, etc. So maybe I'll just, grateful to be on, Arthur. Thanks for having us here. And I have a lot of my team that have jumped on here as well. Grateful for all the support. Let me just start with 5 minutes of my perspective where AI is today. And I've been in AI. My first thing, actually, I'll share my screen real quick. I just have a couple of very small slides to show for this part. My very first thing in AI was this window. No, I don't want to share. I want to do the slideshow. There we go.
There you got it. You got it.
Okay, great. So my very first venture into AI was in 2008, and I wrote a computer program where a little computer bot was running and attacking you when I'm back in my video game development days. And the computer program was not just attacking you, but it had logic of this is a chess kind of game, and it was doing logic of where should it move and how should it attack and things like that. So that's AI in general, right? And what we're really talking about though here is LLMs and generative AI is kind of the big explosion that's happened with ChatGPT and what's gone on here. And this is an image that was generated with AI. Interestingly enough, that you can also do image generation, and it's just kind of brilliant. And I think so. There's some misconceptions about like how you talk to AI and when we're dealing with it. And so one of the best ways that I've seen AI described, well, that I like to talk about AI is considering AI, any large language model, something you're talking to, like a little brain, like a 2-year-old brain that you're talking to. And when I'm talking to a 2-year-old, right, it can, well, it depends on the 2-year-old, but let's say it's this young little brain. You can actually, maybe we should say 5-year-old. You can tell it what to do, and it may go do what you want it to do. But also, if you're not specific enough, it may get distracted and it'll go and do something else, or it'll go grab the candy because it's hungry. And when people talk about hallucinations and like not getting what they want out of AI, most of the time it's because you have to almost think about these AI systems a little bit differently. It's much more like a human brain than it is like it doesn't have all the capacity and power that we do, but it's more brilliant with data retrieval. But it also it doesn't give specifics back to you, right? Like if I told my 5-year-old, hey, say this phrase back to me, he may be right most of the time, but maybe not every single time. And depend on the 5-year-old that you're talking to, and there's different large language models, AI will get back to you different information, slightly different. And so when you're talking and interfacing with AI, I think it's more, it's a little healthier to think about it as like almost like a little brain that you're dealing with. And you have to, because when you think about it that way, you have to give it additional instruction, or you have to give it multiple steps to do various things that you're really wanting from it.
So in your example, it's super fascinating, by the way. And I've read some of the stuff that was released early on and trying to explain what large language models were. So I'm sure that's evolved. But is it, if you ask your 2-year-old the same question to repeat back, he'll get it right most of the time. Is the AI responding when you ask multiple times the same question because it thinks you want a different answer?
No, it's how the technology is built. And most of it, so when you're dealing with, there's one variable in this technology system, there's a variable in there that they call temperature. And the temperature is how, so every question and every response has a seed, so a number to it, like an ID to every single thing that you're asking it. And if you tell it the exact same, give the exact same question, and then you put the temperature down to 0 or to 1, it will give you the exact same response every single time. It's based on the same seed.
So it's like a squelching, or that's probably not the right word, but temperature is probably the right word, right? That's interesting.
Well, I don't know. It's temperature, it's creativity. I've heard it said, it's variability, like how repetitive it will be. But if I turn it up to 2, it's going to give me a crazy nonsense. It's like the value in OpenAI is 0 to 2. If I give it a 2, it's going to start talking about the birds and the bees when I'm asking it about trucks and trains.
Yeah.
But if I give it 1, and I use this example a lot. I actually, it's kind of a fun example that always comes to mind. Is I always say, "Who is Batman?" And it gives me sometimes it gives me like the comic book answer. Sometimes it gives me like a simple answer if you turn up that temperature. But when you're dealing with ChatGPT, which most people are when they're interfacing with ChatGPT, they just have it set. You don't have access to that variable. So they have it set probably at like 3 or 4 or 5, or 0.4 or 0.5.
Yeah.
And so that's why you get kind of those variable responses. Like we're getting into the technology of it, which is like how it works and how to use it. And so when you're hooked into the APIs, you can control all of those things. But speaking at a high level, it's, you get different various responses based on how these parameters are set. And when you're considering that's taking billions of pieces of data and just trying to respond, it's pretty fascinating what it can do.
Yeah.
But at the same way that talking to my 2-year-old, it's like, hey, would you draw a picture? He's going to draw something I never would have imagined, right? And AI can do a similar kind of thing. It's fascinating how it can be creative also, because it's it's building these kind of pieces together, and it's actually creative in an interesting way. On the three, or the kind of two more slides here. One about the problems, one about the strengths of AI. Actually, before I go into there, let me just say, like, big picture, the industry, a lot of people are struggling to grasp AI and why, or how it applies to them. The whole industry has exploded with ChatGPT because of people realize what you can do with it, with that chat interface. But it's still early days. Everyone's feeling like it's like the internet, because it is. It's going to change, and it is changing how we do things. Our thesis is more on AI is amazing, but it's how you implement it and how you automate whatever your current processes are with AI that will improve what you're doing. The biggest players out there, the early days of, or 2023 and probably 2024, is dealing with these large language models. So these brains that they're building, ChatGPT or GPT-4 is a brain, 3.5 is another brain. And there's a lot of competition around these brains. But as you imagine, there's other pieces, right? It's how do you interface with the brain? How do you make your own? So these large companies are looking at, well, I don't want my brain or my information to go into the ChatGPT brain. I want it my own. It's my own proprietary. And that's where I'm talking. That's one of the problems here is security. A lot of companies have been really worried about security, even though OpenAI has now realized that's a huge black eye on their system, and they're actually ratcheting it down and doing a lot of things to help, and just say, hey, we will not retrain our models on your data, things like that. But that's been an early issue. And then the next part, so the security is a problem. The memory, I'm actually moving backwards. So we started with the top, how quickly the industry is moving. And the second one, I'll actually go into the second one after. So let's talk about the memory problem. The memory problem with AI is that most of the time, there's a context window. So again, on this 2-year-old example, it can understand what I say if I give it one sentence, but if I give it a whole paragraph, like, it just doesn't understand that context, right? And AI is the same way. It can only take so much in, and then at the same time, it can only speak out so much back to you. In most use cases that we've seen, like, you start running out, and when you're seeing hallucinations, if you're chatting with ChatGPT and you actually, if you found, a lot of people find this, like, if you're talking for 5 or 10 minutes and just back and forth, and you ask it, what did the conversation start with, or you reference the beginning of the conversation, it gets confused. And that's mainly because it's run out, even though you can see it on the screen, what it sends back into the AI to talk to you, it just runs out of memory. It only has a certain amount of bandwidth inside of there.
Like RAM, right? Maybe?
Yeah, kind of like RAM. And so it's running out, and it's really limited. And some of the arms races that have gone last year with these brains is getting an LLM that has a larger RAM capacity, essentially. And so now OpenAI just released, like, a month ago, maybe a month and a half, in their November release, where they said, hey, our capacity now is 100,000 tokens, which means basically you can put 400 pages of a written novel in one question of response. Now, that's how much it can understand. When it spits it back out, it can't do 400 pages. It can only give you like 2 pages back. So there's still limits on how it can talk back to you, as well as the injection of it. But there's a memory problem. So when you think of, so then you go into, and love to dive into this more, we don't need to get too caught up on this, but when you think of a whole company's knowledge base and you want to put it in and have AI understand that, there's actually a different technology that people are using called vector databases, which have been around for a long time, but they haven't been utilized or used until now, because when you're using it with an AI, it actually makes this different type of a database structure useful. And so AI now, if you ask a question of a large knowledge base with an AI, and you attach it to the AI, you can then go look through the million documents, find the most relevant things that would answer your question, and then it serves those up to the AI to answer your question for you. And it's a different database structure. I might be going way too deep.
No, that's okay. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the zero shot.
So zero shot prompting. So that's like when if I go tell, let's move on to my 5-year-old now, and we say, hey, would you go clean your room? And if I tell him to go clean his room, he may clean up his Legos, he may clean up his stuffed animals, or he just cleans a couple of them. But maybe he just cleans his Legos and leaves his stuffed animals. And he's like, hey, but they were sitting around a table and having fun, so why would I clean them up? And then he doesn't do his bed, right? So it's a similar thing. If you tell AI just a general thing to do, or even give it too much information, it just gets confused. Like it doesn't know how to really execute your end result. So for example, and I'll show you this example later of if we asked it to generate an RFP or respond to an RFP. So I have an RFP from a potential customer that I want to win the business. It's got a bunch of detail, and I say, hey, respond to this RFP. And here's myself, here's my company. It's going to go back and try and respond to it, but it doesn't. That totally limits what it can do because it just doesn't know the additional context. So my 5-year-old just doesn't get the additional context that. But if I told him, hey, go clean your room, which means clean up your Legos, clean up your stuffed animals, clean and make your bed, and throw away your dirty clothes into the hamper, like he'll get much closer to doing that exactly what I want him to do versus just the zero shot prompting, which is you kind of throw it all in one prompt and expect them to know what to do. On the
So,
AI, go ahead.
so multiple prompts solves part of the ADHD problem.
That's right.
And
And
is there Adderall to solve it completely?
not completely. Being that's like if you be the more specific you are and the more concrete things, and then more you tell it to not stray from that, like you have to tell it to not stray and be exact. That helps with that's kind of the Adderall, like giving it the example. If I say, here's an RFP that we have, here is our example that we want it to look like, it does a better job at
Ah,
giving you exactly what you want it to look like.
yeah. I mean, that's just true in life, right? You can
Yeah.
explain something to somebody, but if you give them a picture or an example and say it's supposed to look like this,
Yeah, that's
that
right.
just totally makes sense, right?
Yeah, and that's why I think again, thinking of AI as a little human brain or like you're dealing with a human is so much more helpful than thinking of it as like a tech system. Because how would I explain something to a human? How would I explain something to my 5-year-old? And when I'm talking to AI, I have to explain it a similar way. And that way I get much closer to zero hallucinations and I get exactly what I'm wanting back from it when I'm talking and interfacing with it. Um, so now let's jump to the strengths for a minute of AI. And there's kind of there's 3 areas that we've identified. We call it the ACE framework. What it's really good at is now, and you guys and people have seen this if you played with AI. It's really good at analysis. So either general analysis or specific based on data set. You can use it as a research companion. Hey, who was the president in 1900, year 1900? Things like that. It's actually really good at doing a lot of analysis for you, whatever the analysis may be. Like you could ask it, hey, how should I structure my RFP, right? And it'll actually give you back kind of a pretty good structure that you could use to respond to your RFP. And the second one is it's really good at being creative. This image here, was generated with AI. The image generation is really powerful. Creating poems. Some stories are okay, except for stories mixed with structure. So you can't go too big on stories with AI without structure. But there's also creating marketing material, marketing content. You say, hey, pretend that you're a marketer and we are marketing this brand to this type of a customer. And it's actually really good at start creating content and doing some of the creation workflows. And the last big area is processing and automation and improvement. So many times AI is really good at just processing stuff. So we've actually fed it. We've had like a spreadsheet of, actually we had one client who had 25,000 books that they wanted to get additional keywords for these books that were selling online. They were selling these books online. They had this huge catalog. They're publisher of books. they only had 4 keywords for the books, for every book. And we wanted to go through and get really rich keywords so they could have good SEO for Amazon and selling on, and this SEO of Google. And so we ran it through, we created a process with AI that would go search for the keywords, and then we would load those onto every single book. And it just went through like a system, and it ran through this process and the automation really well. And it was a great automation use case for AI.
Yes. And
Yeah.
we talked a little bit about this, and I know we're going to get into it, but the application or the use case for this process automation is kind of at the top of the list, right?
Yeah.
All right. Before we continue, even though we ran out of, you can leave that up. You can leave it up.
Oh, okay.
We ran out of room to talk about your background because it was so deep and interesting. So could you give us a little bit of background, then we'll go around the room real quick and then continue? Is that all right?
Yeah, no, that's actually perfect. So my background is in, I have a background of, I was in entertainment, in technology and entertainment. And early in my career, I've built over 60 different products, video games, in my career for Disney, EA, all the big guys. And then went to business school, and then out of business school, I actually worked for a bank, Citigroup in New York for a little bit, and then went to Amazon. And at Amazon, I was doing a lot of technology and technology innovation there. And at Amazon, I ended up running the third-party selling marketplace platform. And that platform at the time, about $65 billion was run through that platform on a yearly basis. And that was, opening my eyes. I learned a ton, worked with some amazing people, but learned about really big scale of technology and innovation. How do you deploy it to large groups of people and make it work seamlessly? And then after that, inside of Amazon, I went on to build a new internal business that was hit about $330 million within my first year of launching that business inside of Amazon. And with that, I felt like I was, I kind of cut my teeth pretty deep inside the Amazon ecosystem. And so I ended up coming back to home. I had an ailing parent, father that I wanted to be closer to. And so I came back from Seattle to Salt Lake City. And here in Salt Lake, I then went on to, I built several companies. The most recent one was an e-commerce operations company, tech-enabled service company called Product Labs. But I built and exited several companies. And then during the most recent time that I sold that company, I started getting into AI about 2 years ago. But I'll stop there so that we can let both Edgar and Mark talk a little bit about their backgrounds also.
Sounds great. Edgar, you want to go first? Yeah.
Yeah, you bet. Edgar Cheney. I'm the VP of Product at Enhanced AI. I have been doing product management for a long time, 14 plus years. In fact, my first job out of college, funny enough, was product management. So I've been doing that my entire career. I went to business school at BYU, which is where I was introduced to Brad, and we've been friends ever since. I went off and have worked at some really incredible companies at Microsoft for 4 years, Lucid Software, where I was able to redesign and build their second version of their product, Lucid Chart. And then I worked at Progressive Leasing, and then have led a couple of different companies that are smaller than the ones that I've mentioned, but still did over $100 million in revenue. I've led product there at 2 of those companies. And now I'm here, and I'm excited to show you what we're building. And we have so much, there's so much potential here, and we're excited to continue building this company.
Awesome. Thank you. Mark?
Hey, everyone. My name is Mark Higginson. I've actually, I started in sales quite a while ago, and it was with Comcast. And then I moved to a company called Team that was acquired by WeWork. At WeWork, I actually took over all of the post-sales processes. So we're talking, account management, the renewal aspect of any of these relationships through current clients, and also professional services and support. The reason I joined Enhanced AI specifically was to help spin up that motion. Implementation, onboarding, professional services, that's where we think we could have a huge impact with some of these companies that really do not know how to leverage AI. And I was telling Arthur at the beginning of this, we really look at what our product is. We kind of cheer on any AI platform that gets released, because what our tool does is connects and allows you to integrate with any of those AI platforms. So anytime a new AI platform gets launched, we're as excited as anybody to, cheer them on and see if we can integrate with them, because all it does is broaden the abilities for our clients to be able to connect and leverage these different tools in the future.
Is it, if you don't mind me asking real quick, is the learning curve for each of the new AI tools, for example, consistently the learning curve the same, or is it vary depending on the tool, which seems to make sense? In other words, is it hard to learn the new one?
Yeah. I would say the more you learn of just how AI works and that you can think differently, the easier it is for all the new ones to come in, or for you to learn new tools that come in.
Yeah.
And there's actually not a ton of great newer stuff anymore. I mean, you got text, which was the big breakthrough. You have image, all the images were a big breakthrough. Audio is not that complicated, to be honest. It's the technology is complicated, but learning how to use it is not complicated. Where it's like, hey, I can clone my voice, have AI read from my clone voice. And there's some kind of nuances like to how you might word a sentence that would trigger the system to verbalize it slightly differently. But it's not that complicated. Images is probably the most complicated to get right. But text is more this prompt engineering, just knowing how to talk to these little brains, these little machines. And then after that, I mean, the next real big thing is video, and that's not there yet. It's fine. It's amazing what it can do, but it's just not, fully there. And my prediction is that you'll get decently there this year, but not. It'll take another full year to really get there with video. But that's kind of like the core kind of media, if you think about it. Now, we're not even going into like using large language models to do data, like a data large language model that you can't talk to, but you just get numbers out of. Like, that's a whole different field, and that's more of a specialized field that you would want to go into if you have a model that's trained on like curing cancer or cancer treatments, right? Like, you might build a large language model around like a bunch of the methods we're using that and the medical details there. And then that's going to be super technical of how you interface with that model and then what that model learns. That's a whole other like deeper picture that's really specialized to that field. And there are language models now, and there'll be continued ones that come out that are specialized there. But I think we're more focusing on the general business operator and the business user, the person who is using ChatGPT now, who want to integrate it into their other processes. It's all integrated, and it's great. Or you can integrate it into what you're doing.
Yeah, that's what's cool too, Arthur, is you can, on the fly, you can swap different versions out. You could swap it between ChatGPT. That's what initially what Brad's idea was to be able to automate and leverage all of these different LLMs or AI platforms on the fly and use whichever one you prefer, whichever one works best for the scenario in which you are trying to leverage that tool for whatever purpose. So obviously Brad's going to probably show this in a minute, but don't want to jump too far ahead.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe if it's okay, just not to oversimplify it, but it might be helpful in giving the typical use case that your company at Enhanced AI solves. Like, what I think it'd help people frame out how you're operating, right?
Yeah. So from a high level, and then we'll go deep. We love the AI systems, and they're really powerful. But what we do is we automate the processing of these systems. So you actually, like I said, zero-shot prompting is a problem. You need to actually do multiple steps to get exactly what you want at the end. And how do you set that up? Am I going to have an engineer that codes all of that? Am I going to learn it myself? Am I going to just use ChatGPT and go back and forth 10 times until I get the response that I want, and then I copy all of my prompts in a Google Doc, and then like I copy and paste them every time. Like that's all cumbersome. And so what we built is a platform that automates the AI. That's what we mean when we say automate AI, is that we automate all these AI systems and we tie them all together. So I can create a process that generates an image or generates an audio file, as well as text or something like that. I'll show you an example of what we did, and this is a 2-minute little sizzle reel that goes into doing this RFP proposal and kind of what we have here. And I think I'm just going to talk over the audio as I have it come up.
So just to frame it out, the objective was to create or respond to an RFP?
Yeah. The objective here is to create or respond to it. Or no, respond to it. So I don't think we have audio on this running, so I'll just talk to it. So, and we can send this out. So the idea is creating a RFP response. So first you got to grab the RFP, right, from whoever it is. And 2, you got to figure out who you are. So this test case, we're No Good Company. And then we tested with ChatGPT. We said, hey, respond to this RFP. And the response came back pretty bare bones, and it actually even made up stories about who we were. But that's what you would get with ChatGPT. Now, if you put it in this automated platform, first, we're showing here, you can actually get ideas from AI of what you might ask it to structure your RFP. And then we're training the AI in these steps of how we are going to benefit this company based on who we are as this phantom no good company. And then we're giving it some of these details that we want in the RFP: deliverables, our unique value add, start and end times, cost for each step. And then we go through and we'd scrape the web for the additional data. So we'd inject additional data from the web that you would put into the RFP. And even some of the data is so long that we just had AI summarize it for us. And then this step is we get an example RFP, put it in here. And so the AI knows the example template to use from, and then we connect it all in one big place, and then we run through it, and it runs through all these steps. So it will do them over and over and over again. And now it's automated. It gives a super rich response that's way better than I would use in an RFP. And now because of it, I can take another RFP and just put it in the initial one. And then I put it in the initial box and I automate it again, and we'll create a response to that RFP doing the exact same thing, going and grabbing data from the internet, isolating what information we have, even grabbing who we are as people, figuring out the pricing, and I just get a generated AI response at the very end, or a generated RFP at the very end with all the information that I might want.
Is it fair to say that the initial programming, let's just call it that, to create the RFP response takes some heavy lifting that would arguably equal the man hours that you'd have to do it manually to train the tool? And
that's
then
a really good question.
Yeah, the efficiency then comes from the repetition, right?
Yeah. So 2 things. Edgar, you could speak to this. He built this in about 20 minutes, built the flow, but you can talk to how long it took you to do this versus creating your first responding to the RFP.
Yeah, you'd be surprised at how easy it is to create a flow like this. It might look a little overwhelming. We're working on the UI of this so that it's a lot more inviting and explicit. But the original flow that I created here probably took me 20 minutes. If you wanted to tweak it and even make it better, maybe you spend another 30 minutes. Heck, you may even want to spend like an hour or 2 to just like refine it and make it even better. But truthfully, just doing one RFP probably takes several hours because you're trying to do a lot. You're trying to do a lot of research and anyway. And so technically creating a flow like this could be even simpler than creating just one RFP response. And then in addition to that, then you now have a flow where all you have to do is take another RFP in its current state. You don't necessarily need to change anything. You just copy and paste it or upload it. And then AI does all of the thinking, all of the structuring, all of the organization. It just does it all. Now, the output might need a little tweaking. Like at the end, you look at it, you want to read it. Everyone should reread it and like just, tweak it here and there. But that's going to be minimal work. We've been testing this out with other clients, with different processes and flows, and it's crazy how much time they're saving with a flow like this.
I mean, one who is not necessarily informed about the use of AI or the response to RFPs would just naturally think that once you did the chassis, the flow, that it would save, thousands of man hours if you're regularly responding to RFPs, right?
Oh, yes.
And then you're going to review, if you did it the old fashioned way, you're going to review the document anyway. So, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's one of the things that the traps that people get caught into when they discredit AI is we say it's going to 10x your output, but that still means you got to put 10% of your time in. So when we get an artifact from AI, almost every time it's, okay, this is 90% of the way there, and let's treat it as 90% of the way there. I got to review it like I would review a normal document, but it's 90% of the way there. I don't have to do all the precursor work. And when you treat it that way, you realize that, oh, I did just save so much time. I should be setting up AI to do this process. Whether I'm doing accounts receivables, that we actually have a whole email generator for accounts receivables. We have blog generators. We have marketing content generators. Like whatever it might be, AI saves so much of that time to just, and it's the stuff you want anyway. And at the end of the day, it really is like telling an assistant or an expert in this field of like, hey, create the first draft of this RFP for me. And once you set it up once, you give them the exact instructions like I would an employee. And it's going to be framed the way I want it framed, and they're going to generate it for me. But by the way, it's going to take 30 seconds to do instead of like a day.
And
go ahead. Sorry, just to add to that, I have never responded to an RFP before. So I wanted to create this flow because our clients were asking for it, right? I've never created one of these. And so I started out with just asking AI, what makes a really good RFP response? What are the components? Which is what the video showed a glimpse of. And then after that, I just broke it down. Okay, well, we need the deliverables, and we also need, how much it's going to cost. And anyway, and so if you break it down like that and allow AI to do those pieces, then it will create a really fantastic RFP response and anything else. But that's just the beginning. In the future, and hopefully in the near future, we want to create a system where the system maybe even creates the flow for you, right? What are you trying to accomplish? I'm trying to accomplish these things. Okay, well, here are the steps that you need to do, and it just kind of automatically does it. That is totally doable. In the near future, in the future, sometime this year, we want to get to something that does something like that. So
while you were learning about how to respond to an RFP, the system was learning alongside of you so it could create a better flow.
Yeah, in essence. And I read an article recently that said OpenAI CEO was saying, we might be in the world of the one-man unicorn. Can you create a unicorn or one person, man or woman unicorn? And this is the kind of stuff like Edgar maybe didn't know about how to do RFPs. You can ask AI how to do certain things. I don't know how to market. I don't know how to do marketing to this group. I can actually ask AI and get there. But in our mind, it's you're never going to get away from these multi-steps and to really get exactly what you want out of it. And so the automation of creating these steps, it's brilliant in how it it creates these, and that we're using the best parts of AI to give you exactly what you want. And anyone really can do this. It's, as Edgar said, the initial feedback of where we are in our system is, hey, the UI is a little intimidating, but every single person within 30 minutes of using it, they're like, oh, I get it. It's super easy. And we've had people from very technical industries and not technical industries at all, because at the end of the day, it's just talking with English to start doing these things, which is like you're talking to an assistant to get things done.
So in this example, is there in Enhanced AI, to use this tool, is there a full service option and a do-it-yourself option?
Yeah, we've set up our company that way. So we have full service where we would come in and set up these workflows for you as a full service option. Then you have the workflow that you can just plug stuff in, and now you have it forever. Or there's an option where people can come in here and build their own workflows, learn how it works, become experts at building workflows, and then they could even do it for others who would come in. There's that option as well.
Yeah, just let's really quick talk about the raise and the ask, just so we get it in before we run out of time. We still have time, but I want to make sure most of the people that are on hear it.
Yeah, well, we're getting the whole company off, have been getting it off the ground for over a year now. As I mentioned, I've had a couple of exits on companies. I've funded the whole thing to date. We are now at the point, actually, we received a little bit of pre-seed from a strategic, but we're raising a seed round of 3 million is where we're looking to raise, and have a bunch of interesting parties, several term sheets out on the table, but open to conversations as we're as we're moving forward here, and would love to find good partners who are interested in this area, know ways of applying this technology to both their own practices as well as a lot of other groups that could really use the technology. And we continue to grow because we believe the automation and integration of AI is really the future over the next 2 or 3 years. And this is just the foundation of what we're going to be building in our future.
So some companies that, for example, that are your life cycle are challenged with business development, customers, revenue. Is the sales cycle long? Does most people say yes once they see it? What's that look like, just quickly?
Yeah, happy to talk. I mean, we could talk about this for a long time, actually.
Yeah, right. I mean, I could talk to you forever about this stuff.
It's fascinating. The main thing with enterprises that we're finding is that they're dragging their feet because of uncertainty and because of crossing. They have a lot of information that crosses the streams. So they're like information, one, like an executive's hearing something from someone and another's hearing something from someone else. And so then they're clashing. And to get the sale through, like they're just working it out, and it's going to work out. It'll be fine. So we found the enterprise sales cycle to be longer than, I mean, it's always long, but I think it's extra long because there's so much education you have to do about AI, but you being on the sales side, you can't just educate them. Like they need education from other places, and they're just working through this dissemination of information. And so we have enterprise clients like, for example, someone working for Kimberly-Clark, or the Kimberly-Clark brand group has been using our platform. We have other ones like Master Control, a local tech company, who've been using it. They're a large mid-size company, and a bunch of other. Warner Brothers has used the product, a bunch of the other bigger ones. But at the end of the day, we know that sales cycle is longer, and we have found that we love consulting companies, and some of the SMBs are a really good way to just get this out, because they're the ones who are really hungry and can move and pivot quickly. And consulting companies, our go-to-market over this next year is really focusing on consultants and their practices, and helping them and their practices do better with what they're doing, and then also applying AI for their clients, because everyone's being asked about AI. No matter almost every field that you're in, it's
Totally.
How do I use AI? And so we love being a resource for them. We found that they're really enjoying being they get to learn and get up to speed quickly on how to use AI, integrate AI into their processes, which is stuff like this, and then also help their clients get up to speed quickly, because the system is so much easier to use than writing the code or the very limited GPT system that's out there.
So you have the big consultants, you got McKinsey, PwC, all those companies
Yeah,
that made
yeah.
a living implementing technologies on behalf of big companies because they have to look their, it's the old story, you never get fired for hiring IBM type thing.
Yeah.
But is there a big segment of the market that's smaller consultants that you're speaking to?
Yeah, it's primarily consultants that are doing 100 million or less are kind of the segment that we're talking to. Even though we do have we have a really exciting pilot going on with a large one that's probably mid-size, a large consultant agency, about 1,000 employees out of Chicago. So they're way over 100 million, but sub 1 billion in revenue. But it took them a long time to get their senior leadership lined up to it as well. So I think our primary go-to-market is we're targeting the smaller consultant agency groups.
Yeah, and I don't know the enterprise pricing model, but I know a little bit about your pricing, and the pushback can't be about the price because you guys are so reasonable, right?
Yeah. We're not charging consulting prices. It's a software that they would that inject, and then they have their consultants that come on top of it, and it actually enhances what they do. And that's why it's just a win-win when we're working with them, because AI loves frameworks and structures, which many consultants come in with a really good framework and a structure of how to apply and solve a problem. And AI is actually, that's one of its strengths, is to be able to use the structure and frameworks for delivery.
Is digital marketing companies like building funnels and all that kind of stuff, is that also sweet spot?
Yeah, we would say, there's a group of consultants that love that would probably say marketing consultants or digital marketing agencies that are definitely in this vein. We've created an auto blog generator that doesn't sound like AI content. That's including SEO, blog content, images, audio, a really cool funnel that these generators can do, and they don't need any engineers to do it. They just need to jump into our system and get it going.
Yeah, sounds fascinating. Some people, I think, and I'm one of them, I want to be able to set it and forget it and, get checks while I'm sleeping, right? And I'm being over dramatic, right? But it's not far from that, right?
No, I have a daily scrub that just goes and looks at the whole internet and gets the latest news, scrapes the website, summarizes the articles, and then gives me a summary of 20 articles of things I'm interested in every day. And then and that's just like a simple automation. Just it runs in my email and spits out an email to me every day. And that's a simple thing, right? But you can be building some really cool, really complex stuff in here too. Then you automate it and it just goes all day long, or whenever you have a trigger come in.
And in that case, is it learning as it goes along?
You can set it up to learn. Yes, you can set it up to learn. We talked about the vector databases, so you can actually set it to inject new information into the vector database. And you can also set these objects inside the system that you can keep adding information into the object. Now, we are not training the LLM like from a raw training perspective. We're training and adding content to the context that you give the LLM, which some people call it RAG. It's just another name for helping the AI know what you want to talk about and giving it reference.
Yeah. Fascinating. So give us another example of because you've given a bunch of good ones, but a use case, a company that you're working with or looking to work with. Don't give us the name of the company, but the use case.
Yeah, let me I could show you an example quickly if I have it up. By the way, back on the sales cycle, I do want to mention that most small businesses, when they come in, sales cycle is usually 1 to 3 weeks to close the leads. The larger businesses, we have it sectioned out to mid-size and large, but it goes up to about a 3-month to small is about less than a month, mid-size about 2 months, and large is about 3 months in the sales cycle. And we found that in this whole process, we want to get to an R or to like a pilot for some of the big guys. The other guys, we get them in, and they, once they build one or two things, they love the system because they know what
probably pretty
they can do with
sticky,
it.
right? Yeah, for
Yeah,
the benefit of the audience, I happen to know, I mean, there's real revenue, this is a real company, and I'm not trying to be snarky, but this is not, I've got an idea and give me some money. This is like you guys are doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, Arthur,
Yeah.
one thing that's been challenging is actually trying to narrow our scope, because you can do so much with this. And we can see a very huge opportunity within these spaces of consulting, even lead generation, lead nurturing. That's one thing that we're doing for another company is it goes and looks at any new lead that's come into the organization or any current account and sees if there are very specific news articles that would impact a certain regulation. Like it's so finite and so detailed of what it's looking for that can then return that information that would put this account at risk. And so again, like there's
awesome.
Trying to broaden the
Fascinating.
scope. There's so much that we could do, but we're trying not to,
Yeah,
because we see so much value here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic use case. We've had other people we have the SEC data that loads into here. So SEC reports of filings and new risks. And we've talked, one client is talking to us about creating their own ETF based on like this whole setup and kind of the structure they have, but we would be scraping data using AI to create these ETF brackets for them. But as Mark said, like we're trying to narrow scope, especially as we're a small team now, and as we grow, then there's so many ways that we can tackle, and we can decide which market we want to go into.
Yeah, you don't want to drown. I mean, you want to produce good result. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
So these connecting lines, just
yes,
tell me what those are.
Yeah. So the lines are, this. The lines are the way we talk to the AI models talk to each other, and the way we pass content in. And so this process here is a sales intake process. So someone gets a lead on their website, and then we're going to do three things with it. But what first is that it comes in from the website, and we pass it in through an API or through an email, and it just gets ingested. And so all the content of the sales comes into this node, and then that node connects to this engine. This is the AI generator, this engine right here, these AI generators. And we can go into detail about the product. We won't really have time, but these connection points are basically how you set up the automation. These thick lines are how you set up like the major processors to go first, second, third. And the little lines are how you connect the content. You can either type the content in the boxes themselves, or you can just connect them through lines, which means sometimes you can share the content amongst multiple generators in a nice, easy way, a nice, visually easy to understand way that you're compiling these together.
And so just to be clear for the audience, this is your product. You've pulled this all together. So this
is Flux Prompt.
This isn't out there for them to use. This is what you created so you can make the best use of these tools, right?
Yeah, that's right. And so within these, we have probably about 150 different systems in here. The core AIs that are in here are text generators, the image generators, and the audio generators. And then there's music, and there's a couple other video ones and fun stuff like that. But there's also readers, so I can read images in here. I can pass images, scans. We were doing scans from a big steel manufacturing company. We're scanning the images in and getting content and doing analysis on the images. We can scan YouTube videos, get all the transcript instantly, or take an audio file, put it in here, and get the full download of everything that happened in the audio file, and then summarize it, for meeting summarization. But then the power here is that you can connect this with external systems. So have something pass in, you can pass it through one or two or three of these steps, and then you can send the results back out. You can send an email back out for a summary. We had a quick workflow that Will built that you can basically take a screenshot of a whiteboard after a meeting and send it into AI, and it's gonna translate everything that was on the whiteboard, summarize it, and then send the results back to you as an email. And so you're taking a picture of the whiteboard and send you a result as an email as soon as you send it back and process it.
Yeah.
Super, like it's like, how creative can you be at the end of the day?
Yeah.
So, I mean, as a quick example, this sales lead comes in, and I'm not going to go into the details, but the lead comes in through these connections. And then what we do three things. The first one is we give them a pricing. We have a pricing matrix of what we would charge a client. Based on who comes in, we run it through a pricing matrix. And so we price the client. The second thing we do is we generate a customized email based on information about us and who the client is and what we know about them. We create a customized email of how to respond to that client. So we have, we've set up how we want the AI to respond, the personality, and we create a customized email. And then the last step is that we go and do research on the internet about all the company, all the latest news about the company. And then at the end of this process, within 30 seconds of a lead coming in, the sales agent now has, they have how much to price it, all the information about the client, and an email that they can send off to the client instantly to try and follow up on that lead.
Wow. No excuse for not getting your sales goals. Right.
That's right. That's right. No excuse. You got everything you need right in front of you. And this was just one that we built. It didn't take very long. It took about 45 minutes to build this one. Again, but once the process is there, it's great. Now, every single lead that we get just churns through this, and our sales agent's like, great, he got all the information in front of him. He gives them a call, or he sends the email, or he customizes it a little bit, however he wants. So.
Yes.
Yeah, the cool thing on the left-hand side, Arthur, is everything you build is saved. You can duplicate these processes, but then all you have to do is run new data through them on a continual basis. So everything is saved. You create these, and then you essentially own them. It's your tool that you've built for your own use cases.
I get it. So you actually have used your tool to build tools that you've a process customized that you could probably sell to somebody else.
Yeah, or we might build a service.
Yeah,
I could build a service that could sell to somebody else just through the tool, and it's pretty simple. It's simple. It's not too complicated to build. You don't need a computer engineering degree or anything. It all just runs.
And once you use these multiple times, for example, you can edit them because you learn something that just needs to be tweaked, right?
That's right.
Yeah. That's what I was going to emphasize, right? Like I have flows that are custom to me. It's what I like to, it's the way that I want to write tickets, or I want to do product, right? That's important to me, right? And so we can give you guys, we are going to put a lot of templates in here that people can easily use from the very beginning, but then they can edit it and they can tweak it just so that it's just like them, how they do their work.
Test it, right? You don't have to, you can just like, okay, let me see and see what it looks like, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yep, exactly. And then, I mean, we haven't really gone that deep into images, but we've created some, same thing with images. Sometimes you have a simple image. We had an internal challenge the other day. We were doing a Super Bowl challenge and then a Pokemon challenge of some images, and just as in the office to have some fun with stuff. But we're creating automated images that look really good. This one was using this for just a cool thing on a presentation that we made. So it's super powerful. We love it.
This is very cool. It's not a political statement, but and who knows whether it's fake news or not, that the robocallers were creating Biden's voice to get donors for the whatever, right? So that came out in the news today, right? That they used AI to generate, like, Biden was really calling somebody, which we know is not happening, but it's interesting.
And we know that kind of stuff.
It's all good. The bad comes with the good.
Good comes with the bad.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
Great. Happy to jump into any questions if any audience have questions or anything else you want to jump into, Arthur.
Yeah, I think we've exhausted our time here, but this has been super interesting and much more fascinating than I originally thought. It's probably going to even be more fascinating as we move along here, Brad. Just like 6 months ago, it's been. But congratulations on building an awesome company, and obviously Jeff and your crew and Paul knows that this is like, I think it's just like the internet, right? It's just going to evolve, and I think the tool is fascinating, and we'll make sure we share your information with everybody and get them in touch with you, either for investment or business development. I'm sure you won't mind that.
Yeah, happy to both.
And then I think next week, the 14th, right? I think 14th, we're going to do this again and get more detail and more into the investment opportunity. But I really
15th.
appreciate you guys doing
Yeah.
this very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. This has been
bet.
terrific.
Yeah, thank you again to Jeff and Paul and Edgar, Mark, Will. We didn't get to say hi, but I'm sure we will. And I really appreciate you guys doing this fascinating stuff.
Hey, Arthur, this is Jeff Crane.
Yeah.
I wanted to just say one thing before we go, and I'm famous for like getting into last words, but I want to leave the rest for you. First of all, thanks for setting this up. But as we go into the next week's meeting, for those that are on the call still, if they have any specific questions, that'd be fabulous. But what we're going to cover is, why companies are choosing us over a product that is a square peg into a square hole. That's one of the things we're going to cover next time. Why investors are interested in investing in this business. The nice thing about it is it's really peculiar. Most businesses that get presented on a platform like this, investors, family offices, VCs, or angels, don't necessarily use the product that they're listening to. What we have found is when we present this service to the VCs and to the angels and family offices, they want to know how they can use it in their own company. The VCs are using it to do a little bit of due diligence. They're doing it in sending out emails and managing decks, right? Family offices who have a specific focus on AI are being more educated now. And when they leave our presentations, they are 10 times more relevant than they were when they got onto the call. So I wanted to mention that to everybody that's on the call, that don't be afraid to jump in and go, how can I use it for my business? Because that's one of the things, Arthur, that is really, I've helped businesses for the last 32 years. And with Brad's stuff, I see the eyes roll in the back of the person's head and go, holy crap, I could use this for my own business.
It's what I said on our call yesterday about FOI, right? We talked about it yesterday.
Yes, well,
agree.
yeah, I
Yeah.
saw your face. I'm like, oh, dude, he's thinking. I saw the smoke coming out of your ears, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think he sees where this could apply to your business.
And that was the first time I was thinking this week. So you got to enjoy that.
All right, I'll pass it back to you. Thanks, bro. And by
Thanks,
the way,
Jeff.
grow that hair out, man. I like it short, but dude, I love the long hair.
Yeah. So I don't go that way. I like you too, Jeff, but not that much. And Jeff, hey guys, I know we're keeping the audience, but you mentioned a unicorn, Brad, earlier. Jeff happens to know my unicorn, Mary. So the hot, crazy matrix, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
That's
She's
awesome.
wonderful, man.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. Good for you.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So thank you all again, and thank you all for being here with us this afternoon. We'll make sure everybody gets in touch and post the recording and alert you of the date and the time for next week. And super appreciate you being here. And as I always say, thank you for sharing with us. The only thing you can't make more of, and that's your time. Thanks, guys. Till next time. Take care.
Thanks.